The people who are following me, my subject, quantum mind, I request you them to listen to my previous videos uh, before seeing this one. Now, this is a case study, very popular, published, empirically proved, statistically proved. Evidence is corroborated with the subjects. So, almost all the parameters, metrics, and methods of a scientific case study are applied in this case. The case study is like this. As you might know that Dr. William Tiller, if you go to the website tillerfoundation.org, he has find a device, develop a device where you can imprint your intentions, not the normal people intentions, the intentions which are very powerful by the very experienced meditators. You have to understand this point. Experienced meditators, those who can emit the brainwave pattern, who can create the very strong imprints on that device. And Dr. Tiller has published these case studies, and he's also selling that product. I have very great respect for this man. And in this intention experiment, what he has done that this device with imprints to achieve certain intention, for example, to achieve health, better health, to achieve success. So these meditators imprint their intentions on that device, and the device is taken to 600 miles, 2000 miles away, and when that device is used by other subjects which are not physically contact, they are not distant, they are not even connected with anything, they don't know, they just know that this is experiment is going to happen, and then this imprinted intent on that device works wonderfully. In one of the experiment by Tiller, Dr. Tiller, he had intended to change the pH level of the water, say 600 miles away, and he did it. So, if you go by the white paper published by him, case studies, you can find some differences. Now, back to my study, my case theory, which I'm proposing here, because this case study has two parts. One is it started in 1970s. The founder of New Age philosophy, the first experimenter, Swami used to call himself as experimenter. He was a great sannyasi, but he was not a normal yogi who used to bless people or look for the photo shoot or something like that. He never took the photo. Never allowed anybody to bow down before him. So in a sense, in a traditional manner, he was not a yogi or sannyasi like that. But I respect other people also. That's not the issue. But what I'm mentioning is that his specialty was in the non-local experiments. So there are two things here. In 1970s, he started experiments and continued for next 23 years till the his samadhi in 1993. And the case study was that if there is a space, certain space, which we can call vastu, not vastu shastra, but vastu, which is confined by a time space limit, a space, and constrained by a physical boundary. His point was that the person who is living in that space, time space zone, or physical boundary, can his mind be entangled with other people's minds and thoughts and intentions? Can that person self direct that process to other people or redirect to himself? That was his study. So in Mumbai, the current chief ministers and official residence of the chief minister, Varsha Bangalow, that is the Vastu. He started experiments, and almost 14 to 16 chief ministers entry and exit in that Vastu. He predicted with the help of uh, the effects of envy on the occupant's mind. And in that, I have written the points here that he draw the angle of that Vastu, and he used to say how the people are going in that space, meeting that occupant, expecting something, and then they if they are not satisfied, which is very obvious thing because no occupant, no leader can satisfy everybody. So when they come out of the Vastu, they just emit their dissatisfaction, anger, frustration, jealousy, envy of to their intense brain. And as we know that high level meditators have their, they can create the impact on their peripheral surfaces or peripheral space. Just like that, very people are very high level of jealousy or envy can make the imprints on the peripheral space. So what Swamiji immediately postulated, the hypothetical was initially it was a hypothesis, and that look, when the person goes out of that, he emits the brain waves, most of the beta, very intense, with very high voltage amplitude, and then they make the imprints. And as per the law of thermodynamics, energy stay in two forms, either the kinetic or potential, and they are not destroyed. So the energy carries the waves which are imprinted in that surrounding space. They carry the intention, and eventually they affect a certain occupant and his mind. Now, initially he collected data. He realized that the occupant in that vastu, when he enters there, suddenly his confidence is rise, and after a certain cycle of 90 days, 100, and every 90 day cycles, the NV which is stored there, which is stored in that peripheral space, started encroaching his mind power. And eventually what happens is that that person cannot complete his tenure more than 1185 days, which is proved in 90% cases, which is beyond the law of probability or any. In 2 3 cases it has been 2 to 4 cases, it has been observed that Mr. Fadnvis, one of the CM, has completed, other person has completed. But irrespective of that, but even in that case, the compensation law is applied, but that's another subject of study. So here what happens is that Swamiji used EEG machine, oscilloscope, then he also collected the data. Not only that, he did number of experiments, non-local experiments on the Vastu. So without visiting that Vastu, without visiting that space, Swamiji used to live in Lonavala, and by analyzing the waves non-locally, the status of envy in that Vastu, he used to predict. So it's not about intuition, it's about non-local experiment, accessing the information non-locally and interpreting the data. Now, any scientific person or any skeptic, you may, of course, skeptics are skeptics, but we are not worried about them because even the skeptics have to study it. Just raising the questions and doubts doesn't make you a scientific person. If you are a truly scientific person, then you have to do the counter study, and that's the problem with the skeptics. So we are not here for the skeptics anyway. So one may ask the question that okay, first 5 experiences or experiments could be successful, and then that could lead Swamiji to predict the future. The problem is that every time the causality has come true, how it is possible? Because mind is non-local, and if mind is non-local, how can that evidence or incidence with the different person, with the different occupant continue? That's the main issue. So that lead us to one conclusion, that the person who is studying on that vastu with certain dedication, sacrifice, and conviction, and meditation, and knowledge, can access that information non-locally. I came in contact with Swamiji in 1988, and before that, in 1986, he had published a book, Yashamatsar. I mean, the success followed by envy. or success and envy goes hand in hand. That's the meaning of that book. And he had also published the effects of envy of other occupants of the minister's bungalow. Primarily study his basic study was on the Mumbai, located in Mumbai, but actually he had done all studies President, Rashtrapati Bhavan, Delhi, and Kolkata, and elsewhere also. And he had given hundreds of references of that, of non-locality and study. But this study is very specific because in this the data has proven again and again and again and again, and there is more than 90% predictable events, and the probability is higher than the 90%. So what happened is that I was very curious, and I studied this subject after 1993 more seriously, because Swamiji had taken Samadhi, and Swamiji had told me to give the services to leaders. And he also suggested me that, look, and actually I had asked him a question rather, Swamiji, I don't have knowledge about this. I am not a yogi, I am not a Swamiji. But he told me that, look, I choose you as a medium. You just focus on your sankalp. Eventually, your mind will create the reality, and then you will have the access to the knowledge non-locally. Um, Frankly speaking, I didn't understand anything. I just believed him. I mean, I was very dedicated person to new philosophy. I'm a Swamiji's. I mean, I don't. I mean, I don't have any word for my relation with Swamiji. I just can't explain. I just believed what he said, and I followed it rigorously. The other ashramites did not follow the way I followed. For them, it was just a perception. For me, it was a reality, and that's the difference between them and me. So initially, I was very puzzled, but eventually, I got the speed and momentum to understand how these non-local things are working. Now, almost 20, 30 years after, in 1993, I started it, and now 2023. Now, almost 30 years after, I'm able to explain these things in the terms of quantum mechanics. Now, what experience I did, what data I collected, what was my experiment, how Swamiji did it, how could I access the non-local information, and can we reduce the envy effects non-locally? Can we use the light, yagya, havan, all these things to reduce the effects of non-locally without going there physically? I will talk this subject in the next video because it's almost 12 minutes, 30 minutes. So I have to keep it control in time zone, at least in this case. We have to follow the time space rules, because space, mobile, and time in the context of physical time, we have to follow. So I will